A Fox News alert now. After weeks of drama and delays from Democrats, the Texas House of Representatives will now vote on a new congressional map. Republicans are expecting it to pass, which means that they could pick up 5 more seats in Congress for next year's midterm elections. It's a big deal, and it's happening right now. This is the Faulkner Focus. I'm Aisha Hasni in for Harris today. Today's vote comes after state Democrats fled the state of Texas for 2 weeks to stop Republicans from voting on this big redistricting plan. The state's House Speaker is not risking that happening again, so he's ordered those Democrats. They have to have permission slips to leave the state house, and they've got state troopers watching over them until today's session is over. A group of Democrats protested that order on Monday. One Texas Democrat decided that she would rather sleep on the state house floor than be escorted by police. It was that bad for her. Last night, 6 more Democratic lawmakers joined her. Our Garrett Tenney is at the Texas State Capitol in Austin with the very latest on this ongoing drama. Garrett.
Aisha, this new congressional map is the only thing on the calendar today for the Texas State House. This bill is expected to pass. The only question now is how long will it take for that to happen? Democrats are planning to use today's hearing to start to lay the groundwork for the legal challenges that they plan to file as soon as it passes. But they're also trying to file some other amendments that seem to be more aimed at generating headlines than anything to do with the bill directly, such as one blocking the new map from taking effect until the Epstein files are completely released. One interesting twist in all of this is that after weeks of delaying the inevitable passage of this bill, Democrats say it is now in their best interest strategically for it to become law as quickly as possible so that they can then challenge it in court, arguing that the map violates the Voting Rights Act.
This is now our best course of action, simply because Texas has a 100% discrimination rate when it comes to redistricting. This is probably, from the experts that we've talked to, the worst racial discrimination in redistricting since Jim Crow era.
Time is of the essence here because the filing deadlines for next year's midterms are just a few months away in early December. And if these legal challenges drag on too much past then, it'll become increasingly less likely that the courts would throw out the maps before the election. So some of what we'll see today is a preview of the arguments Democrats plan to make in their lawsuits challenging these maps, which, again, are expected to pass the House today. The Senate will then vote on the maps tomorrow. And Governor Greg Abbott says they could be signed into law before the end of this week. Aisha?
Garrett, I imagine this all works a little bit like what happens at the Capitol when they try to pass something big like this, and then you have the opposing side with their delayed tactics. They want to debate forever. They want to take up as much time on the floor. And I can hear folks shouting in the background inside the room on the floor. What are we expecting today? I mean, what kind of delayed tactics can we see from the Dems, or are they just going to let this happen because they think it's now political capital?
Well, it has been political capital up until now, but they say that up until this point, they have gotten everything that they wanted from delaying the bill. They got California to introduce its own redistricting effort in their map, which could be voted on later this week as well. And now that California is doing that, they said they also got a win by delaying the close of this first special session. Now that we are in the second special session, they say we've got the backing of California. We can now feel comfortable with this moving forward in Texas, and today they are planning to lay out some of the legal arguments that they are going to be making in all of the lawsuits, many of them that are expected to be filed as soon as it passes. And again, though, it is a bit of a tricky situation for them because while they do want to take up a lot of time today making those arguments, delaying the passage, they also need it to pass because the longer this drags on, the longer it'll be until they can file their court challenges, which we know can take months. And they do have that clock ticking down from early December when, if these court challenges are still playing out, the courts may say, you know what, we're going to hold off until after the election to readdress these maps.
Okay, Garrett Tenney, we will leave you there. Let us know if you see anything changing on the floor there. If any developments come, we will take those live. Garrett Tenney live for us there at the State House. Thank you, Garrett. I want to bring in now Andrew Cherkasky, former federal prosecutor, to talk about the legal battle to come. Democrats vowing that they're going to take this to the courts. Sir, help our audience and everyone out there understand what that could look like and what kind of a legal argument do they have?
Well, I think this is going to be an insurmountable legal challenge for the Democrats, and ultimately the redistricting will go through. What will happen today will be the initiation of essentially what will start the legal battles. The Supreme Court in 2019 said that redistricting or gerrymandering based on politics is a political question, not a legal question. Compare that to gerrymandering that has occurred over the history of our country that's based on race or other discriminatory factors based on those types of factors. That's not proper. And so what we're already hearing is that the Democrats are basing their claim on some sort of idea that this is a racially biased redistricting. But I don't think that what we have here and what the Republicans have said about this redistricting has anything to do with race. It has purely to do with politics. And that, again, is something the Supreme Court said the courts really have no way in on. And although this is going to go for months through the legal process, I think at the end of the day, this appears to be and will be determined to be a political redrawing of the district lines.
So what about, the threat of this not taking place before the midterms, like Garrett just mentioned, where the judges might decide, okay, let's just wait until after the midterms to deal with this mess?
Well, we have to remember we've seen so many district courts around the country issue stays or other orders that are very adverse to the Trump administration, where they try to essentially or end up advantaging the opponents of the Republican or Trump administrations who are bringing those suits. So I think that there is an outside possibility that a court that gets involved will put some sort of temporary restraining order or some sort of order in place to essentially delay the impact of that going into effect by the end of the year. However, I think that when you look at who's likely to win here, and that's what temporary restraining orders or injunctions look at, I think every time it comes back as the state of Texas and the Republicans winning this one. So I think the courts are going to be ultimately favorable and should be from the onset. It ultimately depends who the judges are along the way as to how much that delays the enactment of this.
Okay, we will see what happens with that. First, we've got to get through this first hurdle of actually seeing if they can pass this today, and then we'll see what the Dems do next. Andrew Cherkasky, thanks for your legal expertise. And we are following some breaking news right now from Austin, Texas. We are watching the floor of the State House there, the Texas State House, where lawmakers will soon begin voting on a big redistricting package set forth by the Republicans there in that state. And they are trying to redraw the maps here to the ire of many Democrats, not just in that state, but all over the nation. It has set off a redistricting war in states like California. On the phone with us now is Brian Harrison, Republican state congressman, representative of Texas. Representative, thank you for joining us. I know that you only have so much time before you have to run off back to the House floor to be able to vote. I think it's been very interesting, this argument from Democrats here about, we should have waited till we had another census. We're doing this during mid-cycle. But if everyone remembers correctly, there was a massive shift in the population in Texas, in California after COVID. You saw folks leaving California, going into Texas, folks really changing their residency. I guess for our viewers at home, make the case for why Republicans felt they needed to redraw the lines.
Oh, absolutely. We needed to do it, and quite frankly, I wish we'd already done this by now and had it in the rear-view mirror. I mean, these crocodile tears and bad kabuki theater coming from the Democrats right now is just pathetic. I mean, quite frankly, my fourth grader's production of Shrek last year had better acting. These Democrats are pretending they don't like redrawing maps for partisan political purposes, but the reality is Democrat state after Democrat state has been doing this for decades. The dirty little secret is they're only objecting now because it's Republican states that are finally doing it. And as to why to do it now, there's lots of reasons. The Census Bureau itself has admitted that it massively undercounted the population of the state of Texas. Therefore, we're depriving people of fair representation right now if we don't do this. So we've got to fix that. Number two, we have had a massive shift in voting trends since that census 5 years ago, in particular among Hispanic populations and voters down near the southern parts of the state in the Rio Grande Valley who are fleeing the failed liberal policies of the Democrat Party in droves. And then also, just since 5 years ago, we have had millions and millions of people pour into the great state of Texas, quite frankly, many of them leaving leftist Democrat progressive states like California and New York, and those people need to be represented. So the reality is it's past time. We should have done this by now for Texas to pass a map that more accurately reflects the will of the voters in the great state of Texas, and that's what I hope we're going to at least make some progress on today.
So it looks like, I'm watching these live pictures, it looks like there's a heated debate going on right now on the floor. Can you walk us through what we anticipate to see happen next? Will Democrats try to delay even more? We've been, watching them use every tactic in the playbook. Are we going to see this happen today, this vote happen today? And what are your thoughts on the Democrats vowing to take this to the courts next?
Well, look, I don't remember Democrats running to the courts when California gerrymandered their state far more aggressively than anything we're contemplating in Texas, or they've been hiding behind Governor Pritzker in Illinois, possibly the single most gerrymandered state in America. And I don't remember any objections about the legality or constitutionality of these maps from my cynical and dishonest colleagues on the Democrat side. So, yeah, I would expect the Democrats to continue using every procedural tactic they can to delay this. And here's what I want to see today. I would like to see for the first time in 3 weeks some bold leadership come out of the Republican leadership in this state and stop them. The Democrats don't need more airtime on the floor of the House, which you're seeing right now on the live feed. As far as I'm concerned, the Democrats have had 3 weeks to do this, and they're not doing it. We're not going to let them have any more. It's airtime here. Sorry, I had to go vote there real quick. They shouldn't be given any more airtime. We should use every tool against them that we have at our disposal to shut them down and force a vote today. They have forced this to be delayed far longer than we should have. And quite frankly, I would have liked to see us add at least one more Republican seat to the map for every week they were gone. That would have stuck it to the Democrats the way they deserve, quite frankly.
Well, we'll let you go vote in just a second here. Just one more question for you, if I may. Yep. The way that you Republicans have redrawn the maps here, you are banking on keeping that Hispanic vote that you got with President Trump at the top of the ticket. And we know the Democrats had a huge demographic problem in Texas and in the South. Are you confident you can do that without Trump on the ticket?
Oh, yeah. Look, I think, President Trump has done a generational service to our country by exposing just how damaging and destructive the big government socialist Marxist policies of the Democratic Party are. And I absolutely am I'm convinced, and certainly I'm going to do everything I can in my power as a lawmaker to ensure that this trend continues, and I firmly believe that it will, because people are sick and tired of failed promises of big government liberals promising this sort of socialist utopia, and all it ever results in is more taxes, more regulations, higher house prices, higher grocery prices, and people want more prosperity, they want more freedom, they want more liberty, they want a lower cost of living, and the Democrat Party stands for everything that is the opposite of that. So I firmly believe, at least here in Texas for sure, but I think across the country too, we are seeing a generational shift from the Socialist Democrat Party to the Republican Party as the party of freedom and liberty and prosperity.
Well, it sounds like you are in for a long fight, and that fight starts today. We'll let you go and get back onto the floor. Thanks for dipping in with us and giving us that reaction there. Brian Harrison, Republican, Texas representative. Thank you.
Always great to be with you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.